a summer hat to disguise the fact that it does not feel at all like summer outside the window. But book break, summer content must go on even if the weather isn't exactly playing ball. It's actually just started raining outside my window. But nevertheless, we are going to pretend that it's summer here on book break, and I have got a bunch of non-fiction recommendations for you. These are all summery non-fiction books to help you have the best summer of your life. You know what? Regardless of the weather. Okay, we don't actually need the hat. Summer is the season to take time off from work and do absolutely nothing. And imagine if that was your whole job. This book, Rental Person Who Does Nothing by Shoji Morimoto, is about a man who did exactly that. It started because he had a boss who told him that it made no difference whether or not he showed up to work. So he started thinking about what that could look like, carving a place for yourself in the world that is all about doing nothing. And what it turned into was actually offering a really fascinating and helpful service to people who are lonely. So people rent Shoji Morimoto to show up and do nothing. He might just be company for them so they don't have to eat alone. He might come to wave them off from a train station. It might be someone who needs to tell a secret to get it off their chest but cannot tell anyone in their life, and so they tell him. And beyond that, he doesn't have to do anything. He will provide very simple conversation perhaps, but really he's not there to do anything except be there. So it's a really charming concept and a really eccentric little book all about the strange and lovely ways that humans can connect with each other. I just opened a random page, so this is a request that he received. I've got a great girlfriend, but I can't really talk about her to my other friends, so I wondered if I could talk about her to you. I'd really like it if you could say things like, "She sounds nice," from time to time while you're listening. Isn't that sweet? That request was from a woman who wasn't out to that many people in her life, but really wanted to be able to talk about her girlfriend to someone who wasn't going to accidentally put their foot in it or say anything that upset her. A lot of the time, what people really, really want is just to be listened to anyway. So, a very cute, eccentric little memoir for your summer doing nothing but reading this year. Possibly the complete opposite of people who do nothing are action heroes, and Nick Macmillan has written a book about the last action heroes, about the golden age of Hollywood action movies. From Sylvester Stallone to Bruce Willis, from Die Hard to The Terminator, this book is a crash course into 1980s and 90s action movies and all of the highs and lows, the successes, the box office flops, the incredible fame that these actors achieved at this time, how they were just pop culture titans. Great summer reading for movie buffs, but also if you want to learn more, if you want to get started learning about Hollywood history. I've got two books about boobs because I don't know, I think boobs feel pretty summery. If it's hot enough to get your boobs out, it's probably summer. The first is Killjoy by Joe Cheatham, which tells the story of the No More Page 3 campaign and how Joe Cheatham got sort of accidentally involved in this massive and successful campaign. Jo was working as a nanny. She did not think of herself as an activist. She always went out of her way to avoid conflict, but when she came across a Facebook group talking about Page 3 and the budding movement to cancel it, she started to get involved and realised that a group of ordinary people together could make an extraordinary change, that a small voice put together with other small voices can make itself heard. So it's a really fascinating story about the 3 years that she spent being involved in this campaign, and it's very, very funny. She has a very funny writing style, so it's really interesting about that, but also about activism in general. It's about our patriarchal society and why it needs to change and how it can change, what can be done to really genuinely make differences. And then if that gets you thinking about all of the strange, ridiculous ways that we think about and talk about women's breasts, then you should read Tits Up by Sarah Thornton, which is a history of the breast. So Sarah Thornton looks at so many different contexts in which we look at boobs, so many different words that we have for boobs, so many different things that they symbolise and have symbolised throughout history, to put together this really interesting feminist narrative about the female body. Boobs have become a billion-dollar business. Boobs are at the centre of incredibly heated debates and chauvinist ideas. Boobs have been objectified, they have been adored, they've been commodified. People have been scared of boobs. People hate boobs. They hate to see boobs on TV in their streets, hence the Free the Nipple campaigns. For something that is ultimately just another part of the body, how have boobs become so loaded with meaning? Really interesting. This is stuff I hadn't thought about before. Moving away from boobs to another part of the body. So I am very glad that the conversation around summer bodies, we're moving away from that. We don't talk about that anymore. The only summer body that I want to have this year is one that feels good and healthy and isn't actively in pain. So I was very excited to pick up You're Not Fat, You're on Fire by Stephen Perrine, which is all about inflammation and gut health. Something that a lot of us find ourselves very, very affected by. Talking to my friends, particularly my female friends, but not exclusively, it is very interesting how much of our time we spend telling each other that we have a tummy ache. And that is what I would really like to stop this summer. I want to spend this summer running around happily on the beach, not worrying that my tummy hurts. And it turns out it hurts because it's on fire. And there are ways to cool down this inflammation. This is the kind of stuff we should have learned in school. To have a truly relaxing summer, I've got 2 books that are about changing the way that you think. So the first one is Unstressable by Mo Gawdat and Alice Law. This book is a practical guide to stress-free living. Can you imagine not being stressed all the time? What must it be like? So to do this, the book actually really dives into what stress is and what causes stress and how we can understand our stress in order to prevent it, because it turns out it is preventable. What a gift. I love practical guides like this as well, with real exercises that you can try, real habits that you can start picking up to change your life. And then to give your brain a complete overhaul, you can read Thinking 101 by Professor Woo Kyung-ahn, who is a psychologist at Yale who taught a course on thinking, which helped her students overcome cognitive biases that they might have, helped them reshape the ways that their brains worked and the way that their thought patterns worked. It became the most popular class at the university, which honestly does not surprise me at all. Again, it's packed with practical steps that you can take. So the first step is to understand that our brains are constantly being tripped up by prejudice and bias, as well as just errors and assumptions. And once we understand that, there are then practical steps that we can actually take to prevent our brain from getting tripped up on these things. Just think, if everyone read this, the world would be a lot better of a place. And finally, this summer you should read The Garden Against Time by Olivia Laing, which I obviously had to include in this video because just look at it. Have you ever seen a more beautiful summer read before? It is just stunning. Imagine reading this outside, surrounded by nature, just gorgeous. So this book is all about gardens, real gardens and imagined gardens, and what it means to build a paradise on earth. So Olivia Laing covers a lot of ground in here. She talks about her own experience of restoring a walled garden. She goes through gardens and kind of garden spaces through history, also through the history of literature. I can't sum it up any better than this sentence I'm going to read. The result is a humming, glowing tapestry, a beautiful and exacting account of the abundant pleasures and possibilities of gardens. I love that so much. So those are my summer nonfiction recommendations, and let's all really hope that the sun does come out soon because I want to actually feel like it's summer. But regardless, I will be spending my time enjoying sinking into fascinating nonfiction books like this. So I would love to know your recommendations below, and I'll link here to a playlist of all of our other summer content so you can click through and get all sorts of different recommendations to read on holiday, to read in your own garden, to read sheltering inside from the rain at this rate, honestly. And I'll see you next time.